If you've seen any of this debate between Tomi Lahren and Crystal Ball, then you would immediately understand what we all know is true, that right-wingers are scared to death of debating anyone who's read any source material. It's just the fact of the matter, right? None of these right-wing politics shows take calls. They don't invite debate. Ben Shapiro does like one debate per year. But Tomi Lahren, besides being dumb in her political views, she's dumb enough to think that she can actually argue them, right? And she obviously she does no research into the opposition, so she doesn't know what Crystal's going to say. But I'm not going to talk about how much she lost, right? The comment section does that enough. I'm going to play two clips where I disagree with Crystal and Tomi. At least I think I will disagree with them. I haven't seen the clips before this, but let's play the first one. This is about censorship under Joe Biden.
So if you did a little bit more research, you would know that your guy, AutoPen, actually did pressure social media companies to deplatform me, to move me
and
down
Tomi,
in the algorithm, to
if
reduce
you did
me.
a little bit of research, you would know that I complained and protested against those sorts of actions. I have been consistent in saying we should not have a ministry of truth.
This is an actual
government
example.
should not be involved. Hold on. Government should not be involved in pressuring social media companies to cancel. What the Biden administration did, as revealed in the Twitter files and the Hunter Biden laptop suppression, I spoke out against all of that. So you can't get me on that crap.
Well, I'm glad that you did.
That is nothing compared to the way that this administration has used the whole of government, weaponized the whole of government in order to try to silence and coerce their critics.
So Crystal's mostly right there, but wrong about the Biden stuff. But just to put some words to how she is right and how the Trump administration has gone after the First Amendment, we have the Kimmel example, which was mostly the FCC, so I'll be kind on that one. We have Trump ordering the Associated Press to never go in the Oval Office or by Air Force One, which is a non-public forum based on their viewpoint. That is viewpoint discrimination against the First Amendment. We have him taking away taking away the clearances for law firms who have litigated against him. That is a violation of the First, Fifth, and Sixth Amendment. We have the deportation of students who wrote nonviolent, informed essays about Israel, right? Random revocation and deportation. Those judges, the bail judges, said it was a blatant violation of the First Amendment, right? Those are just a few examples there. I'm forgetting one. The NEH grants. The National Endowment for Humanities. There were a bunch of grantees, and Trump saw the grantees. They had different viewpoints than him, and said, these people support DEI. We're not giving them the grants. And a judge said that probably violated the First Amendment. So tons of examples. I'm probably forgetting half of them, to be honest, on the spot. But how is she wrong about the Joe Biden censorship? Joe Biden's censorship was, it was pressure here. And I'll justify the pressure right now. Well, we have to separate it it's a Hunter Biden laptop story, and we have to separate it into COVID. And then there's a third category of Russian misinformation, the possibility that there is going to be an effect on our elections in 2020. So we'll first start with the Hunter Biden laptop story. Matt Taibbi, the person who released the Twitter files initially, or made them famous, essentially said there was no evidence he could find of the government being involved in Twitter's decision to censor the Hunter Biden laptop story. That was a decision made in the executive, right? Or it was a debate that was had within Twitter. And then 2 days later, they brought it back, right? No government censorship there. The FBI, after 2016, they saw how much of a disaster that was. They had a commission to stop that from happening in the future. And throughout 2020, they essentially told Twitter, hey, look at these posts. We don't know if they are, foreign linked or misinformation coming from Russia or Iran, but we're just going to flag them and see if you can find them out yourself. And that was what Twitter files exposed that so many people were mad about, right? Because some of those posts that the FBI flagged were innocent, but guess what? They didn't get censored because the FBI did not coerce. Trump is coercing. The Jimmy Kimmel situation is clear coercion. All the other examples I just mentioned were very coercive. Joe Biden, going into COVID, that was all pressure. And why did he try to censor during COVID? Because it was a public health epidemic, right? His censorship was not illegal. He did not coerce. He pressured, which means his digital director, I think Dan Flaherty or Robert Flaherty, essentially called all these social media companies, emailed them with very harsh language, telling them to remove certain vaccine skeptics posts, the likes of which compared the vaccine to asbestos poisoning, etc. There's tons of examples of that. People just saying it's a joke. I am all in favor of the president pressuring social media companies to remove information that directly harms people. Why am I in favor of this? Because during the pandemic, there's an NBER article about this released at the end of 2022. Excess deaths between Republicans and Democrats diverged by 153% after the vaccine was released, and those divergences were concentrated in low vaccination areas. So it's very important that misinformation not get to people in these scenarios, and government should pull all the stops to make sure that this is not happening within their legal capabilities, and that's what the Biden administration did perfectly. They straddled the line. They did not go over the line with coercion, though you could morally justify it. They stayed well within the line, sending mean emails to people who were doing bad things. This is not illegal in any sense of the word. So Krystal should have not backed down on that. The Hunter Biden laptop story was not censored, right? Christopher Wray should have stayed quiet on the Hunter Biden laptop story, because that's his job as the FBI director, to stay quiet 60 days before an election, no matter how tempting it may be, right? From his perspective, if he came out saying, this story is real, you guys should all pay attention to this, that could be influencing the election, because the election was so close around the corner. He's not entrusted to make that call. So as the FBI is just supposed to, let things go 60 days before the election. And people get mad about that, but that's what James Comey should have done in 2016. And he regretted it too. He thought he was doing the right thing, but he later regretted it. So I fully respect that decision. No government coercion there either. So Krystal, that's the whole thing about breaking points. They're just anti-establishment. They don't. They go with the Democrats are bad, but Republicans are worse, instead of the Republicans are really bad, but Democrats are good, right? That's what they should be going with here. But I think we have a clip about Mamdani, and I have not seen this one. I wonder. I have a feeling I will disagree with Krystal. Based on my previous videos about Mamdani, I'm not the biggest fan of his policies. But let's take a look at it.
Are a big fan of Mamdani?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you are? Okay. So he wants to provide $65 million for gender-affirming care. I want to play the clip, and then I want you to tell me why we should be footing the bill for that. Let's take a listen.
It is absolutely disgusting that this federal administration do. They are looking to erase trans folks from the very fabric of this country. And it's up to us to actually show what leadership look like. And one of the things that we've said beyond saying we're ethnic race for LGBTQIA plus and broader, beyond saying we're going to establish an office of LGBTQIA plus affairs, is also that we're going to provide $65 million of funding for gender affirming care, the same amount of funding that the federal government will pull out from local providers for an ethnic.
So do you think that they should be footing the bill for the gender affirming care?
I mean, Tommy, I think everyone should get health care. So yes, I think trans people should get health care as well. And what he's talking about is, number one, consistent with New York law, which requires gender affirming care to be provided. And number two, consistent with, basic moral values. Yeah, I think trans people should be able to get health.
Not going to lie, I thought they were going to talk about some kind of the economic policy, but of course people should get gender affirming care if there's the science backing it up, if they follow the procedures. People have to go through years of therapy before they get any of this stuff. And we should all get the healthcare that we need. Tommy Lauren has no idea what it's like to have gender dysmorphia, and neither do I. Neither does Krystal. So we have no idea what kind of pain that imposes upon people that suffer from it. And I mean that's the only thing I can go off of, really. Anyone who says differently cannot empathize with the other position. But let's see if we can find an economic debate here.
Tax the rich, baby.
So we're just going to tax all the
rich.
rich. So you think that'll work? You think if you just
Yeah, I
tax
do.
all the rich people that they're just gonna
Tommy, you don't
stay
think rich
there
people
and-
should pay a little bit more? You don't
No.
think that rich people are shirking their burden? I mean,
No.
the extraordinary amount of wealth that has been consolidated in the hands of the wealthy is insane, and they pay a lower tax burden if you look at their net worth than like average middle class people. It's overwhelmingly popular.
So you don't
to
think they'll
tax the
leave?
rich, including among MAGA Republicans. I mean, this is something that Steve Bannon has talked about. Right now, the people that are leaving New York City are not the rich. It's the working class and the middle class who are priced out of that city. And so
Yeah, they
that's what he's
certainly
laser
are.
focused on.
But you don't think that if you just pay for all of these free programs by taxing the rich, you think that the rich people are just going to stay there and keep their money there and they're just going to
Yeah.
fund all this? You think so?
Yeah, I do. They've done research, Tommy, and they have found that there, is very little evidence that the rich will just pick up and leave New York.
I thought I could find more disagreement with Crystal here, but unfortunately, I couldn't. Her research, that is correct. None of the research shows any of this wealth flight that we like to talk about, because rich people's money is usually very much tied to where they live. And if they make a lot of money, they usually live where they already want to live, right? Poor people are much more likely to switch. Like, if you just think about it for a second, this idea that rich people are going to leave because you tax them is beyond stupid. That said, I am not the biggest fan of tax the rich as a policy, because it's a fundamental misunderstanding of public finance, really. These localities should not be depending on a balanced budget to fulfill their policies. All these should be going from the federal government, which is supposed to run a deficit to fund all these policies. If that's confusing to you, I have other videos about that. Which is why I don't care that much about taxing the rich. Do it if you want. Make sure the tax is designed well. Rich people have much more complicated net worths, so wealth tax is often problematic in how you apply it. You have to make sure that it's not stifling potentially investments that will make people's lives better and give people jobs, right? But not much disagreement there. Tomi Lahren kind of ends this she's just not even arguing. She's just saying like random things and asking essentially Crystal's point back to her in a mocking tone, right? Oh, you think you can just pay for this by taxing the rich? Unfortunately, under the situation there with the current federal government, you have to kind of do that to get these programs alive. But if we talk about the programs themselves, not a fan of rent freeze. It can depending on the elasticities and how tenants respond to price, it can either be neutral, slightly beneficial, or slightly non-beneficial, or slightly harmful. We have government grocery stores, which is a great thing, really, if you think about it, because number one, a ton of states do that with alcohol already, and number two, you're not really the government's not taking over the supply chain. The government's not taking on a responsibility that it cannot manage. It's still relying on the supply chains created by the private sector to deliver these goods. It's just delivering essential goods at subsidized prices. So it's not necessarily a government-run business. It's just a subsidy, right? They're still extracting from the private sector. This is not like Soviet Russia, where the government takes over all the supply chains and makes everything a mess and completely nonsensical, non-functional, etc. But Crystal didn't get into arguing about any of that stuff. I assume I mean if she was explained like what I believe for my economic policy, what is the best, I think she would agree with me. But unfortunately, we're stuck in the fiscal conservative Bernie Sanders era, New Deal era of the Democratic Party still, instead of the actually learning how public finance works. But that's pretty much it.